Hi everybody and welcome to my channel. I'm Katie and I focus on projecting my best self out into the world through personal style and taking care of my mind, body, and soul through alternative healing modalities and new age practices. Today I'm going to be focusing on the former topic, so really looking at personal style and fashion and getting creative through the process of overdyeing garments, which is a really cool technique that I'll get into in a minute. But before I get into that, I just wanted to share that this is the first video that I've shot since getting my Invisalign off, and I feel like a brand new woman. If you're interested in learning about my Invisalign journey and what that treatment process was like, I'm happy to share more about it and why in the end it was worth it for me. So please just leave a comment below, and if enough people are interested, I'd be happy to create a video about that. Every spring, I look at my wardrobe and kind of take stock of what's in there. So I'll pull everything out, take a look at any loose threads, loose buttons, any hems that need to be done. Maybe in my case, a sleeve on a blazer might be too long and I need to take that into a tailor and get it shortened, or perhaps a hem on a pair of pants needs to be pulled up and I didn't get to it the previous season. So I make sure everything is in its best condition so it'll last me through the rest of the season. The other thing I tend to look at, especially with spring and summer clothes, because they tend to be cottons and linens, is how worn that fabric is looking or how the dye is looking. I find often with more natural fibers, they may fade over 1 or 2 seasons of use. So I'll take stock of what's there, look at the colors, and see if there's anything that I want to freshen up through the overdyeing process. What is overdyeing? Overdyeing is a process that's often used in fashion manufacturing to overdye fabric. So it means dyeing fabric a second time. This usually happens with denim when an overtone is added. So sometimes you'll see distressed denim or denim that has an indigo undertone, and then there's a different color overtone to the denim. But anybody can overdye fabric right at home and actually use it to deepen an existing color or potentially change the color of a garment altogether. The reason that I'm going to be overdyeing a piece today is because I had a mysterious incident with my beloved ochre Everlane utility barrel pants. I have several pair of these pants, but for some reason the ochre ones have a small spot on under the back pocket where I think I must have sat in some cleaning product that had bleach or color stripper in it, or alternatively when I threw it in the washing machine, somebody may have thrown bleach in there previously and somehow some of it got into this next load of clothing. Unfortunately, that's something that can happen when you're living in a building and you're using shared washing machines. I personally do not use any traditional bleach for that reason. I do use a product that's fantastic from Soapworks called Safe Bleach, and that works really well. It will not strip color, it just strips stains and organic materials out of fabric. So highly recommend that if you're looking for an alternative to bleach. The color removal that has happened on my barrel pants is so small, but it's noticeable enough because it's kind of a weird orange color and I'm not feeling super comfortable wearing these to work. The Everlane barrel pants are pretty pricey. They're over $100 Canadian, and they hold up for years, and it's worth it for me to purchase a few bottles of dye in order to get them looking refreshed again and being able to wear them for many years to come. Let's talk about the how-to of overdyeing garments. I had a fashion line. It was a small fashion line, kind of a home-based business, and that's when I first got into overdyeing fabric. I had gotten a deal on purchasing fabric that wasn't in the color that I wanted, so I was able to experiment with overdyeing a hot pink fabric to a dark aubergine. I also had been purchasing linen fabrics and was experimenting with overdyeing on the linen and was able to get some truly beautiful colors. So because I did this in a more professional way, although I still was using dye baths that were made out of buckets, it wasn't a big business by any means, but I was still able to explore overdying on fabrics versus finished garments. I tested lots and lots of different dye brands. So I've used RIT, Tintex, Dylon. Those are the most popular ones, and you can typically get them at Michael's or Amazon. There's a few other brands out there that are common as well that I haven't used. Many of these companies make dyes in a few different formulations. So they make them in a powdered formula, a liquid formula, and they will sometimes make them in a formula that will work on synthetic fabrics as well. That's a whole other ball of wax. I'm not going to get into that today. I'm just focusing on overdying fabrics that are more natural fibers because they tend to take dye a lot more easily. Some of them you can actually pour right into a washing machine, which I would only recommend if you actually own that washing machine. You don't want to be doing that if you're in an apartment or a condo or have any sort of shared washing machines that you're using. And there's a lot of really cool experimentation that you can do. In this case, I'm taking a pair of jeans that already have a specific, or pants rather, they're twill pants, they're not quite a jean, and I'm going to be overdying the existing color. So all I want to do is freshen them up and deepen the color because it's faded ever so slightly. I've had the pants for about 2 years, and I really just want to get that ochre color back into that bleached out spot, as well as overdying the rest of the garment so that the color is overall refreshed because they have faded ever so slightly. So why not kind of get a pop of color? I personally prefer liquid dyes because they mix a lot better. I have found they also seem to be stronger dyes, or maybe there's more in the bottle, but I've had a lot of success with RIT, that's R-I-T, RIT brand dyes, and specifically using them on more natural fibers. So that's the brand I went with today. It's their all-purpose dye, and it's a fantastic dye. So I went on their website, I looked at their incredible color formula calculator, which is absolutely fantastic, and I was able to find a color that I wanted to go with. I'm going to quickly show a little demonstration of the RIT color formula picker, which is really cool. So I know that my pants are ochre. I quickly went into the yellows to see if they had an ochre color, and everything in here is far too vibrant. This mustard seed isn't bad, but it's still a little bit too saturated and too much of a true color. Ochre is a really muted color that has a lot of brown in it. So I thought I might find something in the browns when I didn't find it in the yellow. And as you can see, there's a lot of browns here, but they do have one color that's almost spot on called Honey Gold Jam. And only a few weeks ago, they had a color called Buttered Rum, which has since disappeared from the site for some reason, but I was able to find it on the internet way back machine because this is the color that I decided was the best match. I wanted something a little bit more brown than the original color of the pants. So this initially, again, was on the RIT Dye website, but for whatever reason, they've decided to get rid of this color. This drop down shows you the different items that you can dye, which is really cool. So jeans, pants, a skirt, shorts, a dress. And of course it's using kind of an average weight, but this is really helpful if you're trying to get a sense of how much dye you need to use. So in my case, I'm doing a pair of twill pants, very similar in weight and density to jeans. I've selected US measurements here because I typically use those even though I'm based in Canada. And I purchased one bottle of golden yellow and one bottle of the cocoa brown dyes in order to achieve this buttered rum color. I would recommend, if you're in Canada, purchasing it from Michael's if there's one nearby, because the Amazon prices are almost 3 times as much. I ended up needing 3 bottles. I thought I would only need 2 bottles. So that cost me, you know, what, probably around 20 bucks, and I might need another bottle of dye. I'll get into that in a moment. There was a little bit of a mistake. I really have some tips for you here on what not to do versus what to do, because things did not go as planned. So I have my barrel pants in cotton spandex blend here. You can see this slight stain. It's very, very small, but you can see it in this light a little bit better. And you can see that these pants have faded a little bit. They're not looking too bad, but they're definitely going to be more saturated and vibrant by the time I'm done. I have my dye bath here, which is a bucket that I use for my mop, and I've scrubbed it out thoroughly so it's clean and ready to go. I do have a stainless steel sink, but I felt like the fabric would be easier to control in the dye bath. In this little container, I have 1 teaspoon of liquid dish soap. That will just help to get the fabric moving around, and the back of these bottles recommend that you add the 1 teaspoon of dish soap, so ready to go there. I have my 2 RIT dyes in the all-purpose. So I've got golden yellow and cocoa brown, and I'm going to be combining these dyes to make the beautiful buttered rum color that is basically a rich ochre shade. I also have a pair of latex gloves here that will protect my hands from getting stained. I will be getting a stir stick as well. I just forgot to bring that out. And then I have 1 cup of just standard table salt. I picked this up for $1.25. I didn't need anything high quality, just salt to add to the dye bath. And what that's gonna do, it's gonna help to fix the dye into the fabric. So let's get going and start this dye bath. All right, I just spent some time cleaning my kitchen sink. It's ready to go. I'm gonna be placing the mop bucket in there shortly. Keep in mind that this is not the most ideal solution. If you have a laundry room area or a bigger sink, that would be better, but I'm working with what I have, and you certainly can create a dye bath in a small apartment. Please ignore the kitchen countertop. It's pretty gross, but most of the time it's hidden by all of my kitchen accessories. I've cleared those away for now, so just keep in mind to get anything out of the way that might get stained or might get dye on it. You definitely want a clear work area, and also make sure that you're wearing something you don't mind getting dye on, or something in a really dark color like black, so that you don't have to worry about any of the dye drops that might get splattered when you're mixing. Uh-oh. So you're gonna wanna make sure that you mix the salt in really, really well, and that you mix the colors together really well. I only put 2 tablespoons of the cocoa brown, but you can see how kind of brown. And this color, it's not quite picking up on the stir stick, or on the camera, but on the stir stick, it looks like it's pretty much the perfect golden brown. That's amazing. Oh, I'm so happy. Okay, it feels like the grit in the bottom, the salt is not as gritty, which means it's starting to dissolve as I'm mixing it around. I've got some splatter here, which is no good. We don't want that to sit on the pants. I've got a little bit in the bucket too. I'm gonna grab the pants, and they are nice and soaked, and I'm just gonna dunk them in. Woohoo! Oh shoot. I got some splatter here. Uh-oh. Oh no. Okay, I'm gonna level with you guys right now. Something went a little bit awry. Something that I'm going to forever refer to as Splattergate. When I was pouring the cocoa dye, which was only 2 tablespoons, into the dye bath, my pants were a little bit too close, and there was some splatter for Sorry, it's freaking hilarious. There was some splatter when the dye went in. It like in the water, and instead of water splashing out or like water with a bit of dye, just like the dye, the pure dye splash, I thought maybe it was one or two spots. No, it's Splattergate. It splattered over the entire pair of pants. So when I had the pants in the dye bath, I was scrubbing the dye out as I was over dyeing them. This is like a master's class into how not to dye things. Sorry, I'll try to compose myself so I can get through this. So I pulled the pants out of the dye bath because they had gotten quite dark in only 15-20 minutes. I thought I'd need about 45 minutes. Often when you have something in a dye bath, it does look a lot darker than the end result, but I didn't want to risk it. So I pulled the pants out of the dye bath. I tossed them in the washing machine in cold water so that the dye doesn't set, and I threw in 2 tablespoons of safe bleach. It isn't going to remove fixed dye, but if dye hasn't been fixed yet, it might help to make those splatters disperse a bit. It might even pull the extra pigment out so that it's looking more even. So fingers crossed that my pants don't look totally splattered on. Worst case scenario, I can just overdye the pants chocolate brown. Don't do what I did. Keep whatever you're dyeing as far away from the dye bath as possible until your dye bath is fully mixed, and then put the fully saturated wet fabric into the dye bath. Do not risk Splattergate. I just got these out of the washing machine, and the good news is the bleach stain is gone and I got the perfect color that I had wanted. The bad news is I have little splatters of chocolate brown. It really did just splatter everywhere. So wish me luck. These are now going to be chocolate brown, and we are back in business. So I used the rest of the chocolate RIT dye, and I have this in my dye bath. So you can see that the fabric is looking really dark. It is not going to turn out quite this dark. As I mentioned earlier, when something's in a dye bath, it looks so much darker than the end result. You need to let it seep in the dye. So what I'm going to do, every 10 minutes or so, I am going to rotate the fabric so that it evens out. If you were just to let it sit here, what you would end up seeing is uneven pigmentation. You need to be constantly stirring your dye bath. So I set a timer for 15 minutes, and I'm going to set timers at 10-minute increments, and every 10 minutes I'm just going to come back and quickly stir and manipulate the fabric so that it dyes evenly. And with any luck, I should end up with a perfectly even chocolate brown pair of pants. Hi everybody, I am wearing the final pants. So as you can see, they're kind of a tobacco brown color, and I'm not sure if you can see from the camera, but you can still see the ochre thread on all of the seams, and it actually looks really cool. You can also see it on the fly here because the zipper and the thread that was used to stitch the pants was probably a polyester, so it didn't dye with the all-purpose dye. The all-purpose dye will only actually dye natural fibers like this cotton spandex blend. I'm super happy in the end, and there's a few things that my previous shots did not show. After I did that second dye bath with the rest of the bottle of the cocoa brown, I actually went out the next day and got a dark brown RIT dye, the same all-purpose dye. I used a full bottle and did another dye bath. The reason for that is that when I put that cocoa tone over all of that yellow, The color that came out was really kind of strange. It wasn't a natural color and a color that you would not typically see in garments. It wasn't a particularly flattering color. So I knew that I needed to cool that tone down a little bit and in order to make it look more brown. So the dark brown had a cooler undertone. So when I put it on this, I ended up with kind of a slightly more neutral to warm tobacco shade for these pants. That's great. But what I might end up doing, just because this color isn't a color I would typically wear, it doesn't look terrible, but I think if I warmed it up just a little bit or made it a little bit redder, it would probably look a little bit better with my palette. It looks great with the cognac colored belt I have and this off-white top. But in terms of mixing and matching with the rest of my wardrobe, and I'll probably wear these in fall, so a lot of the autumnal colors I have are probably slightly more red, especially the browns. So for this not to look a little bit off, I think I might have to do one final dye bath with one more bottle of the full cocoa brown, and it shouldn't deepen this color too much, but what it will do is just make it a little bit more of a chocolate brown, and it should still look nice with that ochre stitching. So I hope that you learned a lot from this video. And again, even if you have a mishap or make a mistake, you can always color correct like I did. And it's still, even though in the end I will have gone through 4 bottles of RIT dye, if I end up doing that final dye bath to make these a bit more red, that's still at, let's say just under $10 a bottle. That's still not a lot of money to spend on ensuring that I get a lot more years out of these pants. And again, had I not had that mishap, it would have been, about a $20 dye job, which isn't bad at all. And over time, this color will fade a little bit, but because I didn't use the RIT has a product, and I'm not sure what it's called, but I'll link it below, that helps you to cure the dye more permanently. But I don't mind that this is going to fade a little bit over time. And lastly, make sure that when you are washing your garment at the end, that if you're throwing it in a washing machine, especially any that other folks might use, you're doing a second load after it's done. So you can do a load of blacks. You definitely need to do another rinse with some soap just to make sure all the dye is out of that basin so that you're not going to affect the next person who's using that washing machine. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for sticking with me and learning what not to do and what to do when it comes to overdying your clothes. Keep in mind that this is an experiment, and if you are testing out something for the first time, it may be beneficial to get a scrap piece of fabric or even purchase some inexpensive muslin and test the dye on there, especially if you're using a really precious garment and you're concerned that your dye bath hasn't been mixed properly. One final note too is that instead of salt, you can use vinegar to help set that dye. You don't have to worry about it dissolving like salt does. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. And of course, if you want more content like this, follow me and like and subscribe. Thanks so much and enjoy your day. Bye.